Spoiler warning for Loki, episodes 1 through 3. Hello, I'm the Infinite Tears, quick spin-off enthusiast, and Loki episode 3 gave us, as a meme I recently saw put it, siblings fighting over the remote, but with higher stakes. That's a very accurate description. Anyway, I will talk about how episode 3 will impact the rest of the series in my review and analysis of Loki, episode 3. First off, I will start with some things you may have missed in the episode. The first of these things is the opening song of the episode, Demons, by Hayley Kiyoko. This song fits with the scene, especially because of the line, "Please forgive me, I've got demons in my head." Obviously, this fits because of how the variant is in C20's head. C20 gives away the location of the timekeepers, and then a little later, the variant enters the TVA. She gets into a fight, then Loki follows her. They almost get in a fight with the judge, but Loki uses the tempad to escape somewhere on the timeline. The tempad runs out of battery, which is honestly a weird thing for it to be able to do, since it is part of the greatest power of the universe, and should, therefore, theoretically have infinite lasting battery. Anyway, it turns out Loki took him and the variant to Lamentis 1 in the year 2077. Another apocalypse. I think the name comes from the word lament, which means a passionate expression of grief or sorrow, according to Google. I mean, it makes sense, right? The end of the world seems like a sad event. That's just my personal idea. I don't know if that's actually true. The variant tries to enchant Loki, and Loki says that his mind is too strong for that. We also learn that Loki ruined her plan that was years in the making. We don't know her full plan yet, but still. Anyway, we learned the variant would rather be called Sylvie. Sylvie Lushton is Enchantress in the comics, so this variant is a version of Enchantress that is also a version of Lady Loki. Loki and Sylvie try to figure out how to get off of Lamentis, and it turns out there's an evacuation vessel that they can try to get to. Sylvie comes up with a plan, but Loki decides to improvise by making himself look like one of the guards, who I think kind of look like peacekeepers from the Hunger Games, but with blue uniforms instead of white. They make it onto a train that will take them to the evacuation vessel, the Ark, and we learn that Loki can't go backwards on a train and Sylvie can't sit with her back to a door. Also, neither of them can sleep at that moment. We learn a bit about Sylvie's past. She was told she was adopted from a young age. She remembers only little details about her mother. She uses the term blips of a dream, which is an interesting word choice considering what they call the space of time between Infinity War and the end of Endgame in the MCU. They called it the blip. After Sylvie talks about herself, Loki talks about his past. How his mother turned flowers into frogs, how she created fireworks over the water, how she told him that he would be able to do it too one day because he could do anything. Sylvie tells us that she taught herself enchantment. Loki gets some champagne and takes Sylvie's as well, and Sylvie comes up with the line, "Maybe love is hate." Loki, of course, mocks her for this and asks her if she has anyone special. Apparently, she somehow maintained a relationship with a postman, and I can't quite comprehend why that didn't create a branch, especially because she said she maintained the relationship while jumping from apocalypse to apocalypse. Then she asks Loki the same thing. She suggests that he would be with would-be princesses or perhaps another prince, and Loki says, "A bit of both, I suspect, same as you," which confirms Loki and Sylvie as bi just in time for Pride Month. Good for them. That actually is accurate to Norse mythology, just like him being gender fluid. So Loki's actually the first LGBTQIA plus character to have their own title project in the MCU, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I mean, I could see the argument for Wanda, but there would still be some debate there. I could be wrong, though. When I say that they have their own title project, I mean that the title has their name. And so there are two debates about Wanda, whether she is LGBTQIA+, and whether she has a title project. There's no debate that Runaways, if you chose to count it as canon, does not count because the LGBTQIA+ characters' names do not appear in the title. So yeah, Loki is probably the first, though I could see the argument for Wanda. Sylvie then comes up with a thought that love is mischief, and Loki says that love is something he'll need another drink to consider. Loki tells Sylvie that she can relax her way, and he'll relax his. Then the next scene is Sylvie waking up to see a drunken Loki no longer wearing his Lamentis guard uniform, and instead wearing his variant jacket, singing an Asgardian song called, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Yegsaler min Zanger? Ganjer? I don't know if I'm definitely not pronouncing that right. Which translates to I saddle my horse. Here is a translation of the lyrics. But cranes dance in the waterfall stop, which she sings, come home. But cranes dance in the waterfall stop, which she sings, come home. When she sings, come home. But cranes dance in the waterfall stop when she sings, come home. But cranes dance in the waterfall stop when she sings, come home. 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 In storm black mountains I wander alone, over the glacier I make my way. In the apple garden stands the maiden fair, and sings, when will you come home? But cranes dance in the waterfall stop when she sings, come home. But cranes dance in the waterfall stop when she sings, come home. When she sings, come home. Then Loki says to Sylvie, everybody, drops his glass and says, another, in the same way Thor did in the first Thor movie. He then says he isn't drunk, he's just full. Very full. Well, full is actually Norwegian for drunk, so I guess he was right. Then, in his full state, he says love is a dagger, a weapon to be wielded far away or up close. You can see yourself in it. It's beautiful until it makes you bleed. But ultimately, when you reach for it, then Sylvie says it isn't real. Love's an imaginary dagger. Terrible metaphor. If you think about it, this kind of accidentally mocks Vision's grief quote in WandaVision. What is grief if not an imaginary dagger persevering? Or in a more serious way, what is grief if not lies and deception persevering? Loki is thrown out a window, and Sylvie follows him because he has the TemPad, and it turns out Loki's fall broke the TemPad, stranding them on Lamentis. Sylvie says that Loki isn't a god, he's a clown, and all Loki can come up with is saying that he's hedonistic. Sylvie says that she's a lot more hedonistic than Loki, and she screams, using magic to slightly muffle the sound. Then she gives Loki what I call the sibling sigh. She sighs multiple times in a way suggesting she wants Loki to talk to her, but also doesn't want to ask, but also secretly doesn't want help, but also even more secretly does want help. If you have a sibling, or you are a sibling, you know what I'm talking about. Loki asks if the scream made her feel better, and Sylvie says that it did, and he should try it sometime. Loki comes up with the idea to hijack the Ark, and they start going toward it, and apparently that was the most Loki has ever watched in his life. We find out that Sylvie knows Loki better than Loki knows her for the tactical advantages, and then Loki successfully convinces her to explain enchantment. She has to physically touch them and grab hold of their mind. Usually they're pretty easily, but the more difficult ones she has to make up a fantasy from their memories. C20's mind was apparently messed up, and Sylvie had to pull a memory from before C20 even worked for the TVA. This surprises Loki, as he was told that all the TVA agents were created by the Timekeepers. Sylvie denies this and confirms that all the TVA agents are variants, just like her and Loki. They then tell each other they trust each other and race to the Ark. In the end, the Ark is destroyed and the credits roll to the tune of some somber music I could not find the name of. Before we get into the review, I would like to mention that I have a podcast. It is called Infinity Theorist Unscripted Rants, or ITUR for short. I mostly talk about fandom, but sometimes I'll go off topic or just plain not know what I'm talking about. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. It is available wherever you get your podcast, and there's a link to it in the description. Hey, while you're down in the description, let me tell you about Infinity 600, a project for a world record. It is a project I created as a kind of internet community thing. There will be 600 participants, and every participant will contribute 1 hour of footage that will be edited into the longest video on YouTube. If that sounds interesting to you, sign up. It is completely free. Full rules are on the website. There's a few more things in the description: my live channel, my Instagram, and my TikTok. I do live stream sometimes, very rarely, and also very rarely I post on TikTok. I do post on Instagram, not very often, but more often than the others. Now for the review. First, the title review. This episode is simply called Lamentis. It's a good enough title. It explains where they are, only you'd have to watch the episode to understand, and I guess that's a pretty good hook, so I'll give it a 90 out of 100. As for the episode, it was a bit short, to be honest, but I still enjoyed it. It wasn't really as good as the other 2 episodes, but I think it was still good. I'll give it a 91 out of 100. That's a good score. That averages out to 90.5 out of 100. That's still an amazing score. You can watch another video by clicking the top left, top right, and bottom left corner of the screen, but before you do that, click the bottom right corner of the screen to subscribe, so you can see more videos like this every week, hopefully, except when I don't get it, and also click the bell so you can be notified, and just subscribe. It's good for you, and subscribe to follow my podcast, do everything that I said earlier. Alright, goodbye, that's all I have for you today.